I'm Aaron Jackson, and I'm the sports editor at the East Carolinian.
I'm Ty Gavin, the copy editor.
I'm Chase Carroll, sports chief.
I'm Rob Romero, baseball reporter.
I'm Daniel Roberts, baseball reporter.
This is TECsperts.
Welcome back, everyone, to our final week of TECsperts. This week we're without our beloved host, Aaron Jackson, but we have our two baseball writers and sports chief here, and we are wearing our basketball jerseys, except for Robert, because he must have missed that memo.
I did miss the memo.
But Representative Dwayne Wade, John Wall, LeBron James, and Mike Piazza,
It's better than all of them.
Nice throwback.
Here he was a pretty good baller back in high school anyway. So,
But we're here to recap the loss to USF, the first series loss that the Pirates have had this week, and to recap the Duke win before looking forward to Memphis and NC State. So this weekend, the Pirates dropped their first series. What do you guys think?
And taking with USF, they came in as a very cocky team. There was a lot of trash talk going on. Dan, you were in the second game when Joe Rogden did whatever he did that pissed off the fans. But
You mean,
you know,
yeah, Joe Janord.
I see. I don't
Yeah,
know his name.
he pissed off everybody in the stands and the whole team. Godwin, when he had like a 2-run homer in the 7th inning that really put the cap on the game when the game was already decided, but he really took his time just trotting around the bases, like ran real slow, and everybody in the stands started booing, started getting mad, and the baseball players looked like they were about to start clearing out.
Turning around at second base to start trash talking our second baseman and shortstop probably wasn't a great look either.
It really wasn't.
It wasn't. I think one thing also started because when Brian Packard went off in the first game, hit the last home run, I believe it was in the 8th inning, he did a bat flip toward the bench, but I think he did say he didn't mean to do it. It was just the emotions of the game, and I think that really rubbed USF the wrong way. So they came out all fired up, a lot of noise being made of them, and I think that's what that motivated them to come back and win the series.
ECU definitely showed that they had some holes that they might need to fix up before getting into conference play, but you mentioned it that ECU is not at the top, that they're currently ranked maybe the highest in the AAC, but they're not leading the AAC. So I pose the question, who's the best team in the American Athletic Conference?
so I do still believe ECU is the best team in the conference. However, there's obviously other great teams in this conference. We got Houston, the defending champions. You can't overlook them come conference tournament time. USF just took down ECU, so obviously they're going to be right there. Wichita State's not a team to joke with. So overall, this conference, there's no one you need to take lightly, including our next opponent, Memphis. They're struggling this year, but we're not going to take anyone, or ECU's not going to take anyone lightly. So any team can win it all, in my opinion.
I believe that ECU is still the best team in the AAC, despite the record right now of 5-4. I still believe they're the best team just because all across the board with the pitchers and the bullpen, Trey Benton, Tyler Smith, Chris Hoba have been phenomenal starters. I mean, Tyler Smith suffered his first loss of the season against USF, but he still has performed up to expectations on the mound. And then Trey Benton being in a little struggle, he's going to get out of it. And the bullpen being able to come in and close games, Ryan Ross especially, Kirkpatrick, Zach Barnes, Gavin Williams, they all have ERAs less than 2 right now, and they've done a really good job.
Well, it's just saying, like, looking at, like, the depth of this team, I don't think there's a team like Houston or USF, Wichita State, that has this kind of depth. Because you look at the pitching, which we'll get into a little bit later, they have 6 guys under 2.0 ERA, and that's not including Trey Benton or Jake Agnes, who have been in a recent struggle. Jake Agnes, early in the season, Ben is a little bit now. But those guys who can easily turn around and really, when they're on fire, they can be unhittable. And looking at that, they have, because I think they're getting the best out of other teams. Because like when people look at the ECU, they're like, wait, we're better in the conference, but ECU is ranked 12th, 7th, or whatever rank they're in the country. So they feel a little disrespected by that. So they come out more on fire and top. But I think it's great for them because that shows that they're not going to be taken lightly at all. The teams aren't like bowing down to them or anything. They're coming out and getting ready to fight, and that's getting the best out of ECU. So,
just to toss in my 2 cents, I think the best team in the AAC gets determined this weekend, and unfortunately it doesn't have anything to do with the ECU-Memphis series. UCF has to travel to South Florida for an incredible series, and Wichita State has to go to Houston. So I think between who wins those series and how they look there, I think that's where we decide who the best AAC team is, and unfortunately ECU falls a little bit behind. But ECU looked great against Duke on Tuesday night. What did you guys see there?
Well, it just shows. They've been dominant against in-state rivals. I mean, they're 13-1 against all North Carolina teams, includes Elon, UNC, those guys. But they showed that what was really encouraging to me was Agnos, who wasn't just any midweek team. This was against another top 10 team in the nation. So with him to come out there and he gave up the 2 runners and sacrifice try to get on. After that, he shut out the rest of the way, and I thought that was huge against a Duke team like that. And then the bats came alive with a little help of a couple of thrown errors to score a couple of runs, but they were aggressive, stealing the bag with 6 stolen bases. They're most in over 10 years. So when they play against a top team like that, they will play at their best, and it shows that winning a game like that, that's huge.
So you mentioned their success against North Carolina teams. They're actually 13-1 against North Carolina teams this year. So they've seen these North Carolina teams and really just dominated. Yeah. So, but what I saw from this Duke's game, I was happy to see Dwanya Williams-Sutton really come back. He's been injured a lot this year. He had a couple great years for the Pirates these past couple of years, but we haven't really gotten to see it this year. He came out and had 3 hits on the day, and that's something I think we're really going to need to see from him moving forward for them to really consider themselves a contender.
He was about 1 inning shy from taking a ball to dead center field for a home run.
Yep.
That wind just started kicking up in that 4th inning. Daniel, anything to add about Duke?
Yeah, just there's one thing we always seem to forget. We always keep talking about the team itself, but you seem to forget that the number of fans who will travel with ECU to these different road games. They traveled with them to UNC at the beginning of the season, and now they traveled with them when they took on top 10 ranked Duke, where ECU fed off of their energy and basically dominated Duke, winning 9-2. And also Connor Linton even pitched out on Twitter talking about that if there are players that ECU is trying to recruit right now, that there really should not be any other school to consider, because the amount of fans and the fan support, fan loyalty, there's no place like ECU. So I say the fans really give ECU that boost, and they have performed very well all season long just because of that.
It's been very clear in the UNC series and in the UNC series, yes, in the Duke game, that the ECU fans definitely traveled in-state, but making a trip down to Memphis might be a little tough. So looking into Memphis and having the Pirates trying to bounce back from their first series loss, what do you guys see from the Tigers despite the 1-8 record?
So what I see is a team that is not very good at hitting. They have only one player that hits above 300, and against a team like ECU, you're going to need to get hits. That's the only way to beat them. So they also kind of struggle pitching. They don't have anyone under a 2 ERA, and as we talked about, the Pirates had how many 9 pitchers with a below it?
Astonishing.
Yeah. So I don't see Memphis posing too much of a threat to ECU this weekend. However, ECU can't take them lightly.
Absolutely.
Just because I believe that because this conference is one of the toughest in the nation with baseball, that ECU can't, like you said, can't take them lightly. Even though Memphis has been struggling as of late, they could easily come out hungry, just like USF did this past weekend, coming to Greenville and managed to win the series 2-1. But ECU cannot take them lightly because they had that same type of mentality last year. And how many series did they lose because of that? They had a 7-17 record in conference play because of that. So I say that Memphis, even though stats say that ECU should destroy them, I believe that ECU just has to handle business like they've been doing, and they'll be just fine.
Well, we saw earlier this year with Pepperdine, going in, we thought they were going to kill them, but then they didn't show up to play. As like Godwin exactly said, they didn't show up to play, and that's what it just comes down to. Because you look at the talent disparity. I mean, ECU just is much better from top to bottom. I mean, one guy that scares me is Jonathan Bolin, but he also has a 1-5 record because it shows him getting run support behind me. He has a 2.60 ERA, 65 strikeouts. But it should be a team. But if ECU shows up, they should be fine because Godwin has always said, like I'm going to keep saying it, is something about the best team plays that day. Memphis has shown that they're not the best team on most days, but at the same time, they could be fired to play against ECU. So it's all about to see what happens.
What's incredible is that the American Athletic Conference just beats up on each other. I mean, you got 2 teams sitting at, there are 3 teams sitting at 7-5, and everyone else is kind of separated by 2 or 3 games. And Memphis might be behind right now, but I think they see this opportunity as a chance to win. A couple stats that might make someone nervous for ECU is that Memphis actually has the highest batting average against lefties in the conference, which does not bode well against Ryan Ross, who has been the Pirates' best closer or relief pitcher. But good for ECU is that they have a conference high 14 balks, and with ECU being super aggressive on the base pass as of late, maybe that can bode well for the Pirates. But instead of just talking about the midweek game now and predictions, I think that NC State deserves a little bit of credit, and that deserves its own little segment. So, what do you guys see from the Wolfpack?
So, we talked about how Memphis could not hit. They had one batter batting over 300. That is the exact opposite for this NC State team.
Absolutely.
They have 9 separate players batting over 300 this year. 2 of them do not get much playing time, but that just shows that they can plug someone in if they need to. But they can hit, they can pitch.
They can hit home runs.
Home run.
56 home runs for this year. That's insane.
They probably have one of the top pitchers we're going to face all year in Brian Brown with a 1.09 ERA, 5-0 on the year.
Hopefully, he's a weekday starter.
Yeah.
And we can avoid that.
Yeah.
Weekend starter.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, this is what it's all about, really. I mean, this is going to be. I believe this is going to be the best team ECU is going to face. And even though it's not a series, as most people would like to see, as a 3-game series, but this is going to be once again huge for ECU to go in and see if they can take it against. Like we said, they've been dominant against in-state teams all year, and ECU, I forgot to mention, is 11-2 on the road, so they're not fazed by a lot of road matchups. And the crowd has played a huge factor in the in-state game. You would like to think that they're going to make the same impact in Raleigh next week.
We mentioned ECU's 13-1 against North Carolina teams, so it should be interesting to see if they can keep up. Really, if they win this, I think this kind of labels them as the best team in North Carolina.
Put your flag on
I
the
just
ground.
want to make the point that when I've gone on to saying that Jake Agnos is a huge piece, I think this is another start he's going to make. And since the way he performed against Duke, if he can do this against NC State and do the same thing he did, that is going to be huge for his confidence moving forward, and that's going to be huge if this team wants to move forward in the postseason and to potentially Omaha.
Yeah, like we said, NC State can hit. The home run department especially, they got 3 players with at least 10 homers.
Lead the ACC, which is a huge conference, though.
It's ridiculous, and they're the best in the Atlantic department in the AAC. Or not AAC, ACC, just correct myself. But NC State has proven they can dominate all year long. So I say when they welcome ECU, they'll come ready to play. But at the same time, though, ECU just has to come in with the mentality of we're about to pull off perhaps one of the biggest upsets of the year against a number 4 ranked NC State team. First top 5 opponent of the year. So
Yeah, not the first ranked opponent, so hopefully the Pirates have a little bit of confidence going in there. Another thing is they don't walk many batters, which is something that ECU has been able to thrive off of, just getting on base from free passes. But the Wolfpack just beat UNC 8-3 in the weekday. Now they got to host Duke for a weekend series, so that'll be a good measuring bar to see where the Pirates are going to stack up. Hopefully they're not overlooking Memphis to get to next Tuesday, though. But on the predictions, what do we have going into next week?
I have us sweeping Memphis. I think the stats kind of tell the tale of why, but I expect ECU to come out and not take them lightly, come out and sweep them. And then I have us actually beating NC State. I've liked what I've seen from ECU against their in-state opponents, 13-1. I think they're going to come out wanting to really punch them in the mouth and take control of North Carolina as their state. This is our state, is what ECU is always kind of
Branded,
yes. So I think this is the best opportunity to claim North Carolina.
Absolutely.
I have ECU sweeping Memphis. Need the stats all across the board, as stated before. ECU excels in batting and pitching when compared to Memphis. Memphis should not pose too much of a threat. So I see ECU sweeping, and I see Trey Benton getting out of the slump and having a great game to, get himself going again. And then with NC State, I have ECU actually winning the game, pulling off an upset, because Agnos has excelled in this midweek starting role, and he proved that he could take on Duke and keep them from scoring runs and lead ECU to a win. I don't see that changing against NC State despite what the stats say. I think Agnos is going to come in ready to play, and I think the batters are going to be ready for NC State, and they will come out with the win.
Yeah, I piggyback on what you said. I have ECU sweeping Memphis and taking the win over NC State against Memphis. I see Ben getting out of the slump. I also see Todd Smith responding from last week's on Saturday, and I get to just see Holbud just keep doing what he's doing. And I just see the batters, like Packer to continue his hot hitting, Lloyd, Washer, Linton, Brickhouse. I just see those guys just continuing to dominate the Memphis pitching and to show that Memphis doesn't have a lot of run scored behind the pitchers. So I just see ECU taking care of that. And against NC State, I mean, that's all we need to say. It's just they've dominated in state, and I'm just going to see it as an opportunity to just take North Carolina as ECU's. This is the baseball state. This is ECU's baseball state.
I'll wrap up this very repetitive panel with also an ECU sweep and win at NC State. I think I touched on the two dogfights that are about to happen in the AAC, and I think the Pirates know that this is a chance to go get a sweep and kind of leapfrog some teams in conference standings. I think Memphis is a good team, and I think them being at home, I think that 1-8 record doesn't speak to how good they are. I think the Pirates can overlook a lot of teams, but hopefully the amount of talent that ECU has propels them to the sweep. And then NC State, you guys said, all the Pirates are looking to do is plant their flag in the state and say that this is ours. I think they're looking forward to, once we get to regionals and super regionals, pending the Pirates making it there, these are the teams you're going to see. You're going to see a lot of ACC teams and Big 12 teams, and like you said, Connor Litton talked about how the Pirates are as good as any team in any conference that you want to pick, and they've showed that this season. I think they show it again on Tuesday night. And just to speak to Aaron, who is not here, Aaron also has a Memphis sweep, and he's actually original and goes with NC State taking the win. So unfortunately, we won't be here to discuss this next weekend, but thank you for watching. We really appreciate it. Good luck with finals. Good luck to all your NBA teams, and we'll see you next year.